We've talked culture. Let's talk cars. The other half of this show. Cool cars and athletes are kind of synonymous, aren't
Hmm.
they?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think I've ever met a person that's played sports that hasn't found, one of their cars to purchase or to drive and obsess over at one point or another.
Are you one of those guys?
Well, I love cars. I actually, yeah, I kind of obsess over cars.
So
I
let's talk
love
about
I,
that.
I love I love British automobiles
Okay.
because I fancy myself. Well, if Idris Elba doesn't get the role, I'm still available. I can still become the first Black James Bond.
I would support that idea.
Thank you so much. There are articles out there about me saying that, so I would still love to be that. And I've loved cars since I was younger. I've obsessed over them to the point where I actually owned some radio controlled cars because I couldn't purchase the actual car.
Mm.
So sometimes you have to replace the real thing with a scaled model in order to kind of aspirationally still think about it. So I've gone through my phases of different cars from the time that I was on the Giants to the time that I retired when I was on the Bengals.
So let's talk about those. You get drafted the same year as Tom, as you mentioned. And what'd you buy with your first Giants check?
So my first Giants check, so I got drafted in 2000 and I bought the new Toyota Land Cruiser. And I was one of the best purchases that I ever had. I kind of think to this day I should have kept it because it's a classic.
It is a classic.
The Toyota Land Cruiser. I mean, they've gone through several different iterations, and the one thing that I've always been challenged with the Land Cruiser though is the gas mileage. Sometimes is a bit challenging. However, I did find out that you could get a bigger tank, because I know that in certain African nations and Middle Eastern nations, they actually retrofit it with a bigger tank so you can get greater distance out of the truck. And then I went from that and I went to a BMW M3. I believe it was a E46.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I had that thing tricked out. I lowered it about an inch in the front, inch in the front, 2 inches in the back. I put like 22-inch and rims on it, and I had these racing tires on the car. And let's just say most times it was redlined, because that car is a driving machine, right? You're supposed
the ultimate driving
right
machine.
And you're supposed to push it. And so that's what I did. Except one time I was pulling out of the Giants parking lot and I was going to get on the turnpike, and the power to weight ratio in that car was so powerful, and I just gunned it a little bit too hard, and I did a 360 in the middle of the intersection. I was like, you know what? It's time for me to just put this car away and just stick with my SUV. So I kind of paused for a second because I realized I loved it a little bit too much.
Yeah, you don't want your middle linebacker on your Super Bowl appearing team be doing too many 360s in the parking lot. Wait, did you buy anything that was really extreme? Did you really hang it out there and get?
No, Michael Strahan, he had the Lamborghini truck, he had an Aston Martin, he had a Toyota, he had the 96 Toyota Supra, the one from Fast and Furious. I believe it was 96, yeah. And I had a lot of friends that had Ferraris and Bentleys and things like that. I think I was a little bit more conservative in sort of the supercars, but when I wanted to kind of put stuff into the cars, I wasn't afraid to chip it. I wasn't afraid to add turbos to it. I wasn't afraid to drop some cool air intakes and catbacks and exhaust and all different types of things in order to make it what I desired. But in all honesty, I found my true love in the world of classic cars.
Okay.
And so once I transitioned out of my Toyota Land Cruiser and I transitioned out of my BMW M3, then I started thinking to myself, okay, if I really want to be this first Black James Bond, as I've always thought about it for a long time, I need to think about the British automobile. And my father used to have a TR6 Spitfire. And so I remember that car. And then, I moved when I was on the Giants. After, when I went to the Eagles, I moved out to San Diego and I got to know this gentleman in San Diego, and he had an amazing classic car company. And by the way, I could have bought 3 Porsche 356Bs for like 60 grand.
Wow.
I could have bought it for 60
Talk about
grand.
a missed opportunity.
Oh my gosh. So he had a 365A. Wait. I'm right? 365A and B and C, right? I could have bought all of them. I could have bought a bunch of A's, B's. He had them all in the lot. They were going for like $50,000, $60,000. And I'm the one that turned around and said, oh, I need to get a 1963 TR3B.
Bit of a different realm. Bit of a different realm.
Completely different realm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I need this car. This car is going to be so amazing. It's such a classic automobile. Let me tell you something. I picked up that car, and what I quickly learned, as my friends in the automobile world taught me, was like, the car will get you home. Yeah, but then you got to call the mechanic.
Right.
Right.
I was going to say, how long after you purchased it did you have it in the shop?
Oh, it was like the next day. I had to fix the muffler, the electronics were off. I mean, nothing worked. But I think that's where the passion and where the commitment, and I think where the triumph, lies. And when I think about the world of cars, I think about this world of freedom, as I know you do, and so many other automobile enthusiasts think. We think about the world of freedom. And I can tell you, even though the car stopped quite often, being so low to the ground and hanging my hand out, on the highway, albeit the odometer is like, kind of like bouncing between, 40 and 50 miles an hour. It's not really holding 1 mile per hour, and it's just kind of waving back and forth, right? But not having a radio, not having any technology, but just having the moment is one of the most amazing and freeing times, and why I love cars. And so I moved from that, and I went to Mini Cooper, right-hand drive and left-hand drive, and sort of evolved through the entire British circuit, if you will.